Welcome to Adventure Thinking, an intimate series of live video podcasts that explores the mindset born from challenge, adversity, and living a life of no regrets. I'm Jonesy, your host, and for the past 20 years, I have been lucky to have embarked on some crazy expeditions.
And I'm Lauren, your other host, and I haven't.
And returned transformed, with some pretty epic tales to share.
I'm more of an accidental adventurer.
You just start to question why you're doing it.
Each week, I'll be bringing adventure stories
We'll be bringing
and mindsets down from the proverbial mountaintop as we dive into the hearts and minds of some of the world's greatest adventurers. These are people that have achieved truly phenomenal undertakings against all odds and have returned better for it. So, do you want to live more adventurously? This is Adventure Thinking.
All right, Lauren. This is
Hello.
episode 12 of Adventure Thinking Live. How are we doing this week?
I think you need a little session. So how are you doing?
I'm feeling completely frazzled, to tell the truth. I think we're a little bit over sort of city life and just being hemmed in a little bit and really wanting to go deep into nature. So we're thinking about making some changes at the moment.
Which is very exciting.
What kind of changes are they, Lauren?
Well, do you want to share them now?
Oh, I think we can, can't we?
Might as well.
Yeah.
Look, we had I had my third COVID test yesterday. So they put the little stick all the way up into your brain, which feels really good. Look, we're surrounded by a lot of people. Living the city life is challenging at times. And during these times, I think it makes us wish for a little bit of space. So Morgan, got to go through the outback when she was 1.5. She spent a third of her life in a tent. Dylan, on the other hand, didn't breathe clean air for 3 months, her first 3 months of life because of the bushfires. And then she's been in quarantine for the last 6 months of her life. Effectively.
It's a pretty hard go, actually, hasn't she?
So I think that has spurred us to look for nature again and to go back to the simple things. It wasn't plan A, plan B, or even plan C, but we've decided to pivot and go with it. And it looks like we're going to move to an island in Tasmania.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. So that'll happen in the next couple of months. But yeah, we're really stoked and excited for it. I think that's going to be a nice little tree and sea change actually for us.
And I actually get a garden and chickens, which I'm really excited.
Morgan's excited as well.
And our next guest is actually from Tasmania, so we're pretty excited about that.
Did we plan this, Lauren? Did we plan this? I'm going to switch over to the other view. All right, so let's talk about our next guest. But actually, quickly, Lauren. That COVID test yesterday, I was actually a little bit scared about getting a COVID test. Yeah, how's that?
That was his first one. I'm an old seasoned veteran at it.
And so they put it in, and I was like, you know what? I actually kind of like that feeling. It reminds me of being a little kid and sticking a tissue up your nose or a blade of grass to try and make yourself sneeze. So,
We both woke up with stuffy noses and a bit of a cough. So sorry for the nasally and sinus tone today, but I can't do much about that.
Well, but our next guest, we have got a very exciting person on today, and it is the fantastic, the awesome, the amazing, the humorous Paul Pritchard. So Paul is pretty amazing, and he's going to be speaking on, I suppose, the theme of acceptance. Now, why acceptance? So to get a bit of a proper feel that we will be bringing Paul on, obviously, to tell his story, but I'll paint a bit of a picture, give you a little bit of his bio, and then we'll introduce Paul as a human being. So Paul was a cutting-edge rock climber and mountaineer hailing from the UK. His climbing adventures took him from Wales to the Himalayas, from the Karakoram to Patagonia, from Baffin Island to the Pamirs. When he won the Boardman Tasker Award for Mountain Literature in 1997, with his debut book, Deep Play, which is an amazing thing to do to win the Boardman Tasker. He cashed in the prize money on a world climbing tour, and he found himself in Tasmania climbing a slender sea stack known as the Totem Pole. Now, a sea stack is a column of rock that sort of has had all the other stuff around it sort of eroded away, so it's standing there firm by itself. And it was here that all he had known before was turned on its head. On a Friday the 13th in 1998, actually on your birthday, Lauren, I think it was February the 13th, a laptop-sized piece of rock fell from 25 meters and inflicted such a terrible head injury that doctors thought he'd never walk or even speak again. He was in hospital for a year, and it gave Paul the impetus to write his second book, which was The Totem Pole. And this narrative was about his personal journey through hemiplegia, and it won him an unprecedented second Boardman Tasker Prize. Now, I think there's only been a couple of authors that have done that. I think Paul and maybe Andy Kirkpatrick, maybe one other person, and that is it. And Paul embraced change after such a disabling injury, and he climbed Kilimanjaro. He's continued his adventures. He rode a recumbent trike through from Tibet to Mount Everest, and in 2016 Paul finally climbed the Totem Pole 18 years after his accident. Now, I've got a personal gripe with Paul, actually. Should we go into this? A personal gripe with Paul.
Well, let's talk about how I first met Paul when Paul was up against us for the Spirit of Adventure Award in the Australian Geographic. Now, this is a big deal to be up for an award, and Paul was up for an award because he actually did a desert crossing not too dissimilar to what we did. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. But he was in the outback around the same time we were in the outback, and we'll let him get into what that expedition was. However, he was up for this award, and we were up for the award, and Morgan just wanted to meet a princess, and Megan and Harry were presenting the awards. So that was really important, for Morgan to meet her real life prince and princess. If we won, that was going to be the case. She was going to have all of her dreams come true. And when they announced the winner, it was not us.
It was Paul.
It was Paul. But if anybody was to win that was not us, I actually was like, right, yep, he's cooler than we are. But he wasn't even there to get the award. He was over in Banff.
I think riding. He was riding at the time.
So we'll get into that as well, which is another thing. But we heard Paul's story of acceptance when we were at the Australian Geographic Roadshow. So he shared a very beautiful story, and we asked him to come on and share it with everybody. So should we introduce Paul in...
We will. Yeah. I think what we'll do is we'll probably kick off with another video.
Okay.
I made my peace with fear, I guess. I realised that everybody gets scared. There's no way of avoiding that, it's reality. Which means that you have to befriend fear and just do it scared.
Paul, how are you?
Hi, Paul.
Hello, Justin. Hello, Lauren. And hello, all. Yeah, very well, and thank you for having me.
Are you kidding? We couldn't not have you. I mean, you're the best person to have on this show. I mean, you're bloody hilarious, and you've got such a great outlook on life and everything. Now, Paul, I have to admit, I cut off your bio. There was a little section.
You're just so accomplished.
That I didn't read. And that was basically about... You talk about you see this accident as a gift and describe it as probably being one of the best things that ever happened to you. And I'd love to understand why. I mean, where does that come from? And I suppose that comes into your story. And so, should we kick off with that first of all?
I think so.
Well, I do talk about it in my presentation, which I'm going to give.
Okay.
Right now, but I mean, I just learned so much from that accident, and so I'm a completely different person now. I'm disabled and quite severely, and I it just taught me how to accept and how to. It taught me determination and patience in such a profound way that how could it not be the best thing that ever happened to me, you know? And I go into it about the fact that I do fall over kind of most days, and so it's not just that moment, it's oh gosh, I can't find my words because I've got, for the viewers out there, because I've got word finding problems and memory problems because of this injury. But
well, Paul, when you were
it's all that has happened afterwards. It also adds to the fact that I now see it as the best thing that has happened, you know?
Yep.
Which, I mean, the fact that such a horrific accident could be turned into the best thing that's happened to you, I mean, that's a story in itself, and that's what you're going to dive into. I remember hearing this story, and you said something along the lines of, you really died up on that rock, and you were also reborn. And that, I remember, giving me chills around, you know, you became a different person with a different view on life.
Before we give away too much of the ghost, should we let you take it away, Paul? Should we let you have a bit of a chat, and we'll jump in every now and when needed?
All right. Well, could we do that then? Could
sure.
we advance to the? Can we do the slideshow now then? Yes.
Definitely. Take it away, Paul.
So I died on this piece of rock, as Lauren just said. It's called the Totem Pole, and it was a Friday the 13th. 22 years ago now. I had a devastating brain injury when that rock fell on my head from 25 meters above me. So if I nod off at any point during this slideshow, can somebody please give us a? Well, it would have to be you or
we'll give you a poke.
Lauren or Justin. I hope you'll excuse me. I'm reading from dot points really because as I said, I got shot. I've got memory problems, word finding problems, but I think that we're all forgiving and generous people here, so I think it's not going to be a problem.
100%, Paul. Take it away.
Could you advance the slide, please? Despite that setback, I now see this accident as the most important thing that has ever happened to me. I can say that because my partner isn't in the room. But on that day, I did die, but I was reborn as well. More of that in a minute. Next. So, I was a world-class rock climber and mountaineer. Seems like a lifetime ago now. But I went on numerous expeditions all over the world, chasing big walls in really trying conditions. With scanty resources. This is in the days before major sponsorship deals, you understand. But I learned 3 very valuable lessons. Number 1 is that man can still have his fashion at high altitude.
Yes, you can.
I can do a fashion parade later if you want me to.
I do.
I was sponsored by this local jumper company. Wendy Lawrence, because I really like them. Next.
And we have a picture of Paul showing the latest 80s climbing fashion, so we'll do that after his story.
Oh wow, okay. Now, man cannot live on Tartex alone. On one expedition to the Himalayas, we were sponsored by this mushroom pate company. Because I really liked it. Now, I know it sounds delicious, but let me tell you, after the 18-hour tube, it really seems to pale.
And do you like mushroom pate now, or are you off it still?
Well, I think after about 20 years later, I probably could stomach it again now.
Maybe 1, 2.
Next, I almost call you darling then.
We're all friends here.
You mean Justin? Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes to be called darling.
Actually, are you calling me darling or Lauren darling?
Justin,
who's darling?
You're a darling. Anyways,
I just call everybody darling.
Justin likes it. Continue.
Yeah. Well, this is halfway up Maru Shark's fin with Johnny Dawes. But man's best friend whilst bivouacking in a blizzard is, next, Virginia Woolf. We tore out pages out of her novel, The Waves, after reading them, of course. It's my favourite book now. To roll next. Cigarettes. We were sponsored by Golden Virginia because I really liked it. I don't think you'd have sponsorship by a tobacco company now, would you? But, you know, it was the 80s, and we just took a little bit of working class Britain with us. Next. But no, really, the things that I learned were the true meaning of freedom. This image shows well how you can't really venture left or right when you're climbing up a crag. This is Trango Tower in the Karakoram mountains. That's me in the lead. You can't easily move left or right, and so I like to say that the environment provides the condition, and you, the climber, provide the response. And if you do that day after day, as I did, or we did in my community of Llanberis in North Wales, then it forms you. And one might think that it's very constrictive, but if you're in harmony with the rock, you feel incredibly free and alive, and it's a very simple and splendid way to live. Next, please. And here in Patagonia, on the central tower of Piney, I learnt a strange amalgam of determination and patience. We were sleeping on the wall for 21 days in a portaledge, which is a kind of cross between a stretcher and a hammock, and we were being blown around like kites. And we were anchored to the mountain by just a 2-inch bolt. And this was the most important lesson for the trials to come, though I never knew it at the time. Yes. And next, please. And during these big wall climbs, I learnt a strange amalgam of... No, sorry, what am I talking about? I learnt acceptance. Not resignation, you understand, but acceptance. There's a big difference. I think that we must all try to accept that this frail body that we inhabit, because it's really... quite flimsy, this body. It's going to wither and die at some point. And I practiced this approach to life even before the Totem Pole accident. But once we've accepted this fact, I mean, truly accepted it, then I think we can begin to live properly. I mean, I had a good go. I'll tell you what. Is there any way we can do this?
Yeah.
A free book to anybody that can spot. It's not me on the rock. It's Todd Skinner, a famous 80s climber who's dead now, but you can see him on the rock there. Can anybody see him? I reckon the first person that
sends a message
with their address, I'll send them a free book.
All right. There we go. Matt Murphy just jumped in. He said top left. Do we need him to be a little bit more specific? I'll chuck it up there. Here we go.
No. Top left's pretty good.
It's either a good guess or the right answer.
Matt, can you send your address in and I'll send you a copy of the Totem Pole.
We'll make sure that Matt gets a copy and we'll get his address from him. But awesome work, Matt. You are very quick, and thanks for listening.
Next, please. So, in the middle of all this, I wrote a book about my climbing life called Deep Play, and it won a literature prize. And with the prize money, I went on this round-the-world expedition, like a climbing expedition, with my then girlfriend next. I should say partner, Celia Bull. And we found ourselves at this really wild and remote island called Tasmania. At this piece of rock called next the Totem Pole. If you can note the halfway ledges, there's no way that we can
point it out.
We can do a laser pointer or something. Anyway, but it's on the left.
Hold on, Justin's trying.
Can you see that? No.
Yeah, you know what? I think I'll be able to do this.
Hold on, this is on the fly. We've never done this.
So I'm just going to move this into place. Boop, there we go.
There you go. Yeah. So
good
there's
job,
that
IT.
white spot on the left. Yeah. But that's quite important, that ledge, and that's in this story which Celia and I share, which is quite amazing. So I was a metre off the sea when a laptop-sized rock sagged into my skull from just below that ledge, so about 30 metres. And I was hanging upside down, blood pouring out of my head into the sea. And Celia abseiled down to me. She was at that ledge, and she got me upright in slings, and then she put her helmet on me. I wasn't wearing a helmet. I'll get to that later if there's any questions about that. And then she climbed back up to the ledge, up the rope, and then she had to haul me 30 metres up a vertical wall, so it's like hauling a dead weight up a block of flats.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it took her 3 hours. Her hands were bleeding. She had to make me safe on that ledge. Then she had to extricate herself off the totem pole She then had to run 6 kilometres for help. It was in the days before mobile phones. Next. And 10 hours later, I heard the sound of helicopter rotor blades on the wind, and this fella, Neil Smith, abseiled down to me, and judging by the amount of blood on the ledge, you can see the ledge. You can see me on the ledge there. This is a police photograph. Judging by the amount of blood on the ledge, he thought that he was in for a simple kind of corpse recovery. So when he saw that I was still alive, he knew that there was no time to lose. He clipped me to his harness. He manhandled me over the side of the ledge, and we both descended the rope into a waiting tinny. Now the tinny is actually, if you can shift me again, yeah, look at that. So behind that tuft of grass, you can see that little tinny, and that came round to the other side of the totem pole, was waiting for us. It was going up and down 2 meters on the swell, and so on the upsurge, Neil had to cut the rope, and we both fell into the tinny, and it sped to Fortescue Bay, to a waiting helicopter 6 kilometers away, and that and I was put in the hospital. I was put in the helicopter. It's quite an exciting few hours, really. Could you have a next slide, please? So, I was now epileptic, hemiplegic, aphasic and agnosic. Don't worry if you don't understand the meaning of some of these terms. I didn't either for a couple of months. But basically I was paralysed down one side, kept having fits. I was unable to understand language or speak, and I had difficulty in telling people's faces apart. It's just 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth. Strange things, brains, aren't they? But it was a bit like being a baby again, really. I used to tell my son that I got this scar fighting with a shark. It gave me a lot of kudos for a while. Not now, though, he's 13. Anyway, next slide, please. But it was during my year in rehab in Liverpool that I wrote another book, The Totem Pole. I pressed 1,000,000 keys with one finger. It was either that or go down to the day room with the other clients and watch reruns of The Bold and the Beautiful. Next slide, please. Anyway, despite my friends including me wherever they could, I began to despair at the prospect of never climbing again, never having these experiences. This was on a new climb up El Capitan called a drift, and we met these 2 ex-presidents on route, really. But being at the cutting edge of climbing, anyway, I was just going to say it wasn't all serious. Next, please. And seeing these views as well. This is on the Central Tower of Piney again. This is Simon Yates climbing up. Simon Yates is the one that cut the rope in touching the void fame. So I was always a bit nervous about climbing with him. Not really, Simon, if you're watching. But it was in neuro rehab that I began to realise that I'd had a good teacher in the mountains, and I began to slowly pull myself out of my despair. I'd learnt to let life's inevitable knocks wash over me, and I was about to embark on the longest expedition that I would ever go on, my second life. Next. So when I walked around the rehab centre, about 100 metres, I realised that with some perseverance I might be able to, claw back some tiny semblance of this exciting mountain life that I'd led before. So I slowly got back to the mountains again. First, hill walking up kind of molehills up near my home in Wales, and then 3 expeditions to Africa, culminating in this all-disabled climb of Kilimanjaro. Here's a photograph of our All Abilities team. On the left there you can see Pete Steen, who lives just across the river here in Hobart, and he's a partial paraplegic due to a climbing fall. And Jamie Andrew, oh wow, Jamie Andrew, you should have him on this show. He's a quadruple amputee due to getting stormed in on the north face of the Douats in Chamonix in winter for a week. And then there's David Lim, who was fresh back from the first Singaporean ascent of Everest when he got Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is very scary. He basically went to bed with a cold or flu-like symptoms and woke up completely paralysed and had to be intubated. Jeez. And then I'm just a bog standard hemiplegic. So next slide, please. And this is just me on the summit, but this is 7 years post accident, so an incredibly slow recovery curve. Okay, next.
It's crazy. I love that picture.
So my recovery's been incredibly slow, but that's allowed me to adopt a slower pace of life, which is something that many of us would like to do, I think, but we just don't seem to see how in this busy world. Don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging anybody to have an almighty accident. But indeed, now, we've been forced, haven't we, to adopt a slower pace of life, and with this quarantine and stuff, and I know it's frustrating at some times, but at the same time, there's been a lot of good things come out of it, so it's not all been bad. Next slide, please. I don't know what's going on here. He just told me to wear rubber gloves and wellies. Anyway, the less you see of that, the better. We'll have a next slide, please.
And it looks like he's grabbing your bum as well.
I'm going to let it linger, Paul. I think this is fantastic, this shot. Oh, sorry, that doesn't look right. You got a video coming up now, don't you?
Oh, yeah, video. Yeah.
Hit it, Justin.
Yes. So, 11 years post-accident, I decided to go to a deeper and more vulnerable place than I'd ever been before. I did my first post-accident lead climb in Italy. For those of you maybe that don't know what lead climbing is, going first up the rock means that you can take what's called a leader fall, or you can take. I could have fallen if I'd fallen off clipping this next bolt. 20 meters I could have fallen. So it's and it's a slab, so I would have fallen. It would have been disastrous for me. But anyway, I hadn't lost my fear, but I just rationally came to the decision that scared stiff, not scared stiff. The outcome's always going to be the same. If you're going to fall, you're going to fall, even metaphorically speaking. So I think what is courageous, it's not the absence of fear, but the ability to just do it scared. I know that that's an overused term, but it's true. And just to trust that the universe is going to provide. Later, I discovered this to be the essential and often difficult skill of living, of being in the present moment. So, letting the future go without anticipating it all the time, Next slide. So this is in Tibet. Or could you just go back? Cycling with my friend Carol Hurst, who's also disabled, and it was on that ride, turning the pedals monotonously round on the way to my Everest, that I finally understood that I was not nearly as important as I thought I was, and up until that point, I thought that I was something pretty special, I think. Could you go back to that picture of us riding in the desert now then, please?
Coming.
Thank you. So personally, I don't think that we should judge our lives by the amount of things that we cram into it. That includes experiences and adventures. I think that will cause nothing but vexation. Oh no, the sun's coming right through the window now. I've got to come up close. So since that accident on the Totem Pole, I judge my life on being present to what life offers me. I mean, it is just a brief time that we have in this world, isn't it? And so why not do the things that feel really important to us? This is at the end of the first day of the lowest to highest ride. This is a team of 5 disabled riders traversing from Katithander on Lake Eyre to Mount Kosciuszko, 2,500 kilometres later. And so this is the one that Lauren and Justin are quite hurt about.
You don't need to apologise to us. You need to apologise to Morgan. She wanted to meet a princess.
I can't, but I didn't realise that Morgan wanted to meet a princess. Anyway, could we have the next slide, please? So, of course, it's for the challenge that we do these adventures. It's this challenge that has questioning at its heart. Oh no, I've got a bit. I need to just have a drink. This questioning, I think it's fundamental if we wish to live our lives to the utmost. This challenging and questioning, if we do it often enough, it pushes us to do our best and be our best. So to strive to be more comfortable with it, inevitable fears, and to be more trusting and more able to be dedicated. It enables us to put painful events such as grief and loss into perspective. And so, dare I say it, live a more harmonious life. And this is day 41 at Dead Horse Gap with the world's only blind lighting designer, Duncan Meerding, on the back of our tandem trike. Next, please. So it was with this new perspective that I came to see the Totem Pole as my second birthplace. And I felt that it was right and important for me to finish what I'd started almost 2 decades before, to complete the climb. As soon as I revealed my plans to my friends, it was 10 people that got on board and helped carry water and food and ropes and climbing equipment and filming equipment all the way to the end of Cape Hoy. Next. And as soon as I clicked onto that abseil rope, my mountaineer's brain, or what was left of it anyway, it knew how to act, and I really calmed down. But I made the exact same swing that I made 18 years previously that resulted in the rock falling on my head. A bit higher, I caressed the rock scar where the rock had fallen from, the hole. And it was a very emotional climb for me. As I clambered onto that ledge, I swear that I could hear Celia screaming at me. She was nowhere near, she was in Scotland. But I swear that I could hear her screaming at me, "You're going to have to help me here if we're going to get you out of this." It was really freaky. this is a piece of video. When I got to the summit, I couldn't work out a way to get actually onto the summit. The only thing that I could see what to do was to just fall on my face and just face plant onto his bare foot. So it looks like I'm kissing his feet. And then I'm just kind of there, kind of lying on my face on the summit, but with my legs still stuck out over the void.
What, you not wash your feet, have you?
Yeah, so after 126 one-arm pull-ups up that rope, I finally got to the summit, and an 18-year loop or circle was finally closed. And so that's the end of this segment. Thank you for being so patient and listening.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful, and just that getting up to the top there must have been amazing from the closure, but also to have just that humor about you to just comment on his smell of his feet when you got up to the top as the camera's fading out.
So that the audience, the people could hear the soundtrack there, could they?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah,
It was just muted for you.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's awesome. I mean, Paul, that's the second time I've heard you tell that tale, and like I wish you weren't. Oh well, if you were a bit closer, you'd see that actually I'm starting to tear up again because I can't imagine what that would be like to go up and to caress that rock scar, to hear Celia's voice, and to complete something that you'd set out so long ago, and that had such a big impact on you. Like, it really is making me emotional, and I wasn't even there or part of it. So
I have goosebumps. You're an epic human and an amazing storyteller. So thank you so much for sharing your story. That was beautiful.
Now, we're going to jump into a bit of I suppose the Q&A portion of this. Sorry, I actually am quite emotional. Whoa, what have you done to me?
I wish I had a tissue for you.
I think it was actually...
Let him keep crying.
You
Man,
originally,
tears are the best.
You originally got me with that photo of you with the rubber gloves. I think there was a bit of a stitch up there happening, to tell the truth.
Speaking of photos, should we put up the photo? We promised a little fashion parade. So should we put up a photo of Paul in his peak? I call him the climbing fashionista because Paul... As we chatted about when we saw you last in Tasmania, I'm not a climber, and so I love hearing your stories, but they don't resonate with me as much as probably someone who's climbed. However, your fashion sense on the rock is something to be aspired to.
Oh, yes.
That's...
Wow.
Epic. I mean, look at the mullet, the sunnies. I wore my headband just to like sort of look like you. Anyways, it's awesome.
Yes.
And there's some leopard tights on another one that we didn't take a screenshot. Anyways, follow Paul on Instagram because you can see some of these shots.
That's a beautiful style. Beautiful style.
It is.
Is that your real hair?
Wow. I was 17 then. Yeah.
Just a couple years ago, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I want to kick off actually, Paul, with something you mentioned during the presentation, but it was also a question that came through on Instagram as well. It was why weren't you wearing a helmet? Because I had a friend, I had a friend who when I was posting about this, he was like, "Oh, gee, I'm gonna start wearing my helmet from now on," you know. And I'm not gonna say he's a cool bloke. So I mean, like, I think at times at the crag he might leave his helmet off, but I think it's a nice sober reminder. But why weren't you wearing a helmet?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. I would very rarely wear a helmet when I was rock climbing. I would always wear a helmet in the mountains because there's always ice or rocks falling on your head in the mountain, on a mountain face. But whilst rock climbing, it's very rare to have rock fall, and everybody, not everybody, most people that were climbing at my standard were not wearing helmets back then, and so it's a bit fashionable, but also it was at that cusp where the helmets were still very heavy and cumbersome, and in 1998 and restrictive, and I noticed that throughout the tens, people started to wear helmets again, and it was good to see, even in rock climbing, but there was very lightweight helmets at the beginning of this century, but then I've noticed that over the last few years, it's become fashionable again not to wear a helmet. So you'll see people like Tommy Caldwell and Kevin on the Dawn Wall. They weren't wearing helmets, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you feel about that?
I think that they probably were confident that there was no loose rocks on that bit of cliff, and so and it's each to his own. It's each to their own, I should say. But so Celia was wearing a helmet, and she put it on my head because when she saw the gaping hole that I got in my skull. But I'd wear a helmet all the time climbing now, and I would advise anyone to wear a helmet now.
I mean, there's so many questions I have. One thing you said that really resonated with me in the beginning of that story was that it's not resignation but acceptance, which is a big difference. And then you said once we truly accept the fact that I guess we're fragile or frail or, human effectively, then only then can we live properly. Can you kind of go a little bit deeper on that or kind of dive into the meaning of that for you?
Well, no. I was going to say something then, and it's totally gone.
Do you want me to
Can you repeat it, please?
Yep. So you said something that I felt was really profound, and I just love for you to explain it a little deeper if you're able. You said it's not resignation but acceptance, which is a big difference. Once we've truly accepted the fact that we're, I guess, frail or fragile or human effectively.
Yeah.
Only then can we live properly.
So I think if you resign yourself, you're basically saying that things aren't going to change, and you shouldn't change, and it's a kind of static thing. Whereas I think if we accept that this is my take on it, it kind of means that it leaves room for you to move on and to move forward, and
well, it's with it.
So,
it's with that mindset, I guess, that because that's another thing that you said was, the accident didn't ruin your life, but you actually say the accident gave you the second best life. So I guess it's that process of, the ability to change and evolve that allows you to, recover versus stay stuck. Because a lot of people would have an accident like that and say it ruined my life. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I didn't say it was my second best life. I said that it was my second life. I was reborn.
Yep.
I was reborn on the Totem Pole, and so that accident gave me all the tools to cope with my second life.
Yeah.
And well, it just really did. I mean, I would never be able to I've learned so much. I mean, it's just so profound what I've learned, and about, I've had to be so determined to get through this, and but also so patient, because to face the intervening kind of 22 years where I do fall over pretty much every day, and so, and just to face not just the falls, but the epilepsy, and I probably think about half the speed of you guys, and so
I don't know. We're tired parents.
You're giving me a bit too much credit, I think, there, Paul.
But I mean, that's I think the thing that Justin and I, when we were lucky enough to hang out with you on that Australian Geographic tour and hear your story, just the your sense of humor, like that was, you're one of the funniest people I know when you're just sitting around and having a chat and eating pizza at 2 a.m. At that pizza place we found in Albany or wherever we were. But your sense of humor and how you handle life is something that I really took away from you as a human, and it brings people to you, I think. Do you think humor is a big part of the process to move from resignation to acceptance?
I think humor is key. You can't take life too seriously, can you? I mean, why would you?
Yet so many people do.
Actually, you got to strike a balance, I think, because I think that life is a serious endeavor. You've got to make the most of it.
Yeah.
But you have also got to keep a healthy sense of humor as well. And it's that balance.
It's interesting. I'm a firm believer in humor as a coping tool, as a mechanism, as a strategy, and I think maybe, like, if you look in certain situations which seem kind of bleak, or with people that you'd expect with an accident like yours, an injury like yours, it'd be fairly dark humor. But it's not. It's really dry. It's really light. It's unexpected, and so I find that like fascinating, because like my automatic thought is generally black humor, but yeah, it's not that at all. And there's a certain levity that I really appreciate when we have conversations, and the way you share things. And I don't know if we can tell that story that you told us about the group that sort of you travelled with from lowest to highest, but There was, the story I'm thinking of, and it was really funny, but also it was quite dark in a sense. I'm not going to push.
I don't know the story, actually.
You don't know the story? I don't know.
Can you prompt me?
I don't know whether we should. I don't know whether we should tell that story. We'll retell it offline.
Alright.
I think that one might just be a little bit too.
That one might have been over a couple wines down in the farm.
A couple of wines and some humidity pie down at the farm. I think it was
Anyway, no, I mean, it was a crazy ride. That there was just so many. There was.
Do you want to tell about a little bit about that ride?
Well, there was the blind lighting designer. There was the paraplegic hand cyclist, and there was the guy with cystic fibrosis, Walter, and it was just hilarious. Like I've never done so much laughing in my life. We were just constantly taking the piss out of each other, and yet there was two people on that ride that were at serious risk of death, and that the cystic fibrosis guy, Walter, he was always having lung infections, and you know, it was like really dusty around Lake Eyre, and the paraplegic. Well, he did end up in hospital twice on the ride, and didn't end up coming to the summit, and then actually did die trying to go to the summit 3 months later. And so but at the same time, I'm not at the same time, we and I can't remember his name, but anyway, the paraplegic guy, Daniel is called. Sorry, he kept saying how it was like the best thing that this ride that had ever happened to him, and disabled people, they're very, very strong, much stronger than they're given credit for, because they've had to face so much adversity in their lives, and they also have to really laugh at themselves as well, and so it was such a great ride.
I think what Justin, sorry, my frog in my throat. I think what Justin was alluding to in that story had to do a little bit about empathy too, where you said, we were doing, because that was a big expedition. You just said one of you didn't even come home. This wasn't just, a safe cycle. You guys were crossing, some of the harshest environments in the outback. And we know firsthand that that's not easy. But you were saying how you're doing it to prove just what you said, that disabled people are capable and stronger than people give credit for. But I think what Justin was alluding to is you also said you had to almost hone your empathy, because on that expedition, probably like we did with a 1.5-year-old, when you're trying to get going in the morning, it can take for freaking ever. She's off running around and you really have to hold your frustration. And you had said that doing this with very different abilities, you guys had to really bring a large portion of empathy to just get through it. Because those mornings were quite slow and challenging.
And I think you said that some were slower than others.
Yeah, so we did realize that, that even though we all had different disabilities, and we realised that even disabled people can be ableist. Which is kind of quite strange, but there was, you know, we would have these conversations, and it'd be like, you know, just fucking Walter, or fucking because but it was Daniel who from no fault of his own, because he was you know, paraplegic and it just took him forever to rise in the morning. It'd be the same as Morgan. You know?
Yeah, you were beating up on the slow guy. Hurry up.
Yeah, but
that's expeditions for you, though. You're always being together in a tent isn't always easy, is it? No matter who you are.
But we had a team meeting every night and sorted out the route for the tomorrow as well, but also the problems that we'd encountered during the day, which were always just multifarious. Yeah.
Did that help, do you think, having those daily chats for team morale?
No, it definitely helped. Yeah. Yeah.
You need to get that stuff out in the open. I mean, on an expedition, you can't bury things down. You got to keep abreast of what's going on so that you guys can just move forward. And I you know, the shit giving, I think, is actually kind of a good way to go about it. If you you know, if you hold things down and you don't get them out, and they can sometimes build up and rear their heads in very ugly ways. So it's pre-lancing the boil, I think. So I'm with you, Paul. Can I change tack a little bit, because you went on that expedition, you know, as with a crew of disabled people to go off and to prove that, you know, people shouldn't judge people by their disability or ability. But I want to talk about one of your more recent trips. You've started doing some adventuring with your son Eli. Is that correct?
Yeah. So just before COVID hit, me and my boy Eli went to Nepal, and I was supposed to be leading a group, but I was always at the back. I led from the back, and Eli was always about 2 kilometers in front of me. He had his 13th birthday on top of a Himalayan peak.
And he became a filmmaker, didn't he? He came out with his first documentary called The Rite of Passage.
Yeah, so if you look up Rite of Passage, maybe I'll be Paul Pritchard, and you will see Eli's 10-minute doco, which is being accepted by Kendal Film Festival. So, yeah.
Oh, that's epic.
That's amazing. We'll put the link up in the notes after. I also have I also sent Justin a picture of Eli at the top, I think, if you want to pull that up.
Oh yeah, I will grab that. I was just going to find the link for everyone, because there's the trailer. Actually, we could probably end up trying to watch the trailer.
Yeah, do you want to watch the trailer?
To finish the thing off, let me work on that, Lauren.
Yeah.
Just,
okay.
All right.
Just give me a second. But here's a little picture.
Oh yes.
No.
Yeah, that's on the summit of Gokyori.
And how high, Paul?
And that's 5,400 meters thereabouts. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So
and that's Everest in the background there.
Yep. And so have you made a little climber out of him? Because I know you go to the crag with Eli now, don't you?
We go to the crag, and we go to the climbing gym, and we've been doing new climbs all over the place. Yeah, and it's yeah, it's been
So,
good.
Paul, when I moved down to Tasmania, one thing on my bucket list down there, aside from permaculture and chicken raising, is to climb.
Oh, wow.
Would you mind potentially teaching me to climb? Not to put you on the spot, but
This is what she does.
I'd love to, Lauren, and I know that this is like perfect place to learn how to climb. Right, just down. Me and Eli have been doing these sport climbs on this sea cliff, which I put my harness on in the kitchen because it's so close by, and then go down to the crag, and we've created 10 climbs at the moment, and it's especially for beginners, so it's very easy and very safe.
I would love that, because I have to admit there's a bit of a judgment factor or elitist mentality sometimes with climbers that have, even though I've loved to be outdoors and I love the minimalist aspect of climbing and just the physical aspect, I haven't wanted to jump in. So I can't think of a better teacher than you, and if I can join you and Eli for a climb, I'd be honored when we get down there. That would be awesome. I've never done it, so
No, fantastic. Really, come along, and you too, Justin.
Oh, I'd love to. I haven't been climbing in the past X amount of years, so love to get back into it. So Tassie sounds like it's going to be a good move. It'll dust out all the climbing gear.
And can I ask you a question? I mean, Tassie is the place that you had this accident. You weren't living in Tassie, and now full circle, you find it home. Is there something? A lot of people would say, "I'm never going back there." How did you end up in Tassie?
Well, it was kind of serendipity, really. It's a bit of a long story, but I fell in love with my nurse. I'll try and cut it short.
Racy.
You salty dog.
Rather than watch Bold and the Beautiful, you were playing it out.
This was in Tassie, when I was at the Hobart Hospital.
Yep.
She came and lived with me for 2 years, and we got married. But then when we decided to start a family, we thought that we would come back to Tasmania because there'd be more opportunity there. And then we had 2 beautiful kids. That marriage didn't last, but we're on great terms, and it's all good. And we got 2 beautiful kids, and now I'm in another relationship with with the gorgeous Melinda, and I've inherited another kid as well. So we're now a family of 5. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah, Melinda's pretty special.
Yeah, it was really nice having the time to meet her and spend some time with you.
And you also have another kid on your couch who is one of the best dogs we've ever met.
Go on, I'll see what I can. See whether you can.
Pancho.
So Pancho's a
Pancho, come here. Woohoo!
Oh, we love Pancho. Pancho, for everyone at home, is a 3-legged greyhound, and is just beautiful. It's made Laura and I absolutely fall in love with greyhounds.
Had a pretty tough life story that Paul and Melinda saved him from and gave him the best home ever. And he's one of the sweetest dogs. We will adopt a greyhound because of Pancho one day.
I did have, if you don't mind, Paul, a follow-up question to talking about climbing with Eli, because someone actually sent in a message on Instagram and wanted to ask you a question directly, and that was, how do you feel when you see Eli climbing? Do you worry for his safety?
Good question.
No, I think that climbing is the best education that a kid could have. I mean, it just teaches them so much about self-confidence and resilience and so I'm really overjoyed when I see that Eli wants to climb, and he says that he wants to do the Totem Pole on his 18th birthday.
Wow.
So we'll see about that.
Is he going to borrow your fashionista clothing? Is the real question from when you were 18.
Oh, he should climb it in 80s.
He should.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would really be full circle.
Yeah.
I'm just conscious of time, Paul.
Because I know you've got an X-ray you have to run off to for Eli, don't you, at 2:30 odd? So,
yeah, he's done his back in.
Through anything like climbing wise or anything like that, or something more mundane like slipping over.
Trampolining.
Oh, trampolines are bad.
I have a trampoline injury from when I was about 12 as well. Yep. My tooth went through my lip.
Well, that sounds bad, but what he did, he landed on the frame on his back. You know, the outside frame.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ow.
On his lumbar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's nothing too rough. But being young, I'm sure he'll bounce back fast.
Did you want me to do a little summary?
Yeah, Lauren does these beautiful little summaries.
Well, don't put pressure on.
Okay.
I
Lauren does summaries. Full stop. That's it. Okay. Lauren, take it away.
I've taken 2 pages of notes, which is scribbled all over, just from the beautiful things you've said. You could be a poet in some of your things, but I think like we said, oh, sorry, I'm out of shot. Justin's poking me in the side. There. Okay. But I can't see my notes then. There. Better?
Okay.
Can you see me? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read a couple things. So it's the not resignation, but acceptance. There's a big difference. Our dog is now barking in the background. I think that was something that will really sit with me. And we haven't even talked about this, but maybe you can tell us more in a bit. But you pressed 1 million keys with one finger to write your book, The Totem Pole, which became an award winner because you only had that amount of movement with, as you said, a reduced brain capacity, and you were still able to write a beautiful book. So, I mean, that in itself, if people are struggling to do the thing that they want to do, should be reason enough to try it. I love that you talk about your second life and also the importance of slowing down and a slower pace. It might not always be what we want, but it might be exactly what we need. You also spoke of your almighty accident was one of your greatest teachers, other than climbing, which I thought was really beautiful. And you've mentioned that you haven't lost fear. If you're going to fall, you're going to fall. But if you have courage, but true courage to you is not the acceptance of fear and to do it scared. Just trust the universe will provide and let go of the future without anticipation. I think that for me couldn't be better advice for COVID. I mean, we were supposed to be moving to the States. Our whole life our whole next 5 years that we had really consciously created evaporated in minutes, as did our employment and salary and kind of the way we knew the world. So I think there's no better advice than trust the universe will provide and let go without the anticipation and trying to anticipate the future all the time. It's still going. This is my second page of notes.
I know, you're good.
Judge life on being present in what life offers. So instead of, even chasing experiences or adventures, success to you is really being present in the moment and letting life unfold, because that really is the adventure. Also, you mentioned the value of questioning and questioning often, because it allows us to push and do and be our best, which I thought was really beautiful. And it also allows us to be comfortable with fear, trust, and be dedicated. And it puts challenge or these things that maybe were hard to overcome into perspective. So thank you for all those beautiful tidbits of wisdom, Paul. You're a legend.
No, that's fantastic.
Thanks, Lauren.
How good's that wrap up, Paul? I mean, she's good at it. Now, we always try and finish up on. We warned you about this, and I think you mentioned who you'd suggest. But if there was a person that's another adventure thinker who you'd want to see in the hot seat, want to see a story or a tale that you think people would resonate or it's a lesson that people need to hear, who would you suggest we get in contact with, or who do you know that you could put us in contact with?
Well, you wouldn't be able to get in contact with this guy because he's dead. But
okay, yeah, that's a bit rough.
but I always think of John Dominic Barbie, who's not an adventurer, but he's the Diving Bell and the Butterfly writer.
Yeah.
And he, for those who don't know, he dictated. He had locked-in syndrome and so all he could move was his left eyelid, and he dictated his book, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, that way, and I mean, so much perseverance and so much, dedication and patience, and so that's kind of what means a lot to me.
I love it. We'll have to look him up and read his book, Diving Bell in the Butterfly.
Yeah, I think I've got a copy of that book. Cool. Actually, I haven't.
We'll put it on our list, our Tassie reading list. Thank you, Paul. And did you want to, Justin? Did you find the Rite of Passage trailer?
I did find the Rite of Passage trailer. We can show it quickly if you'd like, Paul.
We can wrap up on that.
Please.
Cool.
Okay, well, just quickly before we do this, Paul, I want to quickly ask you, if people want to get in contact, send you a message, find out how to get a copy of your book, how do they do that?
Get pictures of your three-legged dog Pancho or your 80s climbing gear. How do they do that? Well,
they can probably go to my website, paulpritchard.com.au, and there I've got a shop where you can get anything, all my books, or you can go to Amazon, and there's a new ebook for the Totem Pole that's just come out, and so you can get that on your favorite ebook platform.
Well, just to remind everyone what those books were, I'll just pull up this slide again. We've got Deep Play, The Totem Pole, The Longest Climb, Back from the Abyss, and The Mountain Path, Paul. What's the Mountain Path? I don't think I've heard of that one.
No. Well, The Mountain Path is being published later this year, so it's not actually been published yet.
There we go.
It's
sneak peek.
And it's basically the lessons that you can learn from the mountains. And what it took for me to climb the Totem Pole. Yeah. So
you also have a documentary of your outback expedition, the one that sadly crushed Morgan's dreams. Yep.
Yeah, that one.
Where can people find that on your website as well?
Yeah, so you can find you can find that on my website. It's called Lowest to Highest.
Yep.
And also Doing It Scared is the climb of the Totem Pole in 2016.
Awesome. And that was one thing that another golden nugget out of your beautiful brain was the power of leading from the back. I thought that was really beautiful.
Oh, yes.
Well, I think Paul actually has them down for rental on Vimeo. So if you jump on through his website, you can get to the trailers and then you'll be able to watch the whole thing.
Something good for the people in lockdown in Melbourne.
Definitely. Quickly, Paul, we will go to that trailer in 1 second, but I just want to say to anyone out there who thinks they know a good adventure thinker that we should have on the show, or there's someone that they've always been fascinated with, or an adventurer or explorer that has been too hard to get in touch with, let us know. Send us a note via that link. There you go, Lauren. For some reason, it's just you. Send us a link, and we can a note of who that person is, and we can track them down for you. We were surprised actually at how good we can how easy it is sometimes to get in touch with people,
Well, I think
especially during COVID.
It's a unique time that all of these people, all of these adventurers and adventure thinkers were typically doing keynotes around the world, flying around the world, adventuring around the world, and were all out of touch or had very limited time because they were so busy. But now every person we've talked to is saying, for the first time, I've been home for 3 months in years. So it's been really fun to be able to actually, and so are we. So it's been really fun to connect with people virtually. It's felt oddly intimate, these conversations in a time when we can't really see each other or fly to each other. So that's been pretty cool.
Okay, well, I'm going to try and play this video. So, Paul, thank you so much for being on the show. Just stay there and don't run away quite yet. We'll play this video and then we'll sign out. But we'll talk to you in 1 second. Let's see if we can get Rite of Passage, the trailer, playing. All right, here we go. Let's test my technological skills. Here we go. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to go... Oh no. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. I can do this. Secondary display. Here we go. Rite of Passage. I love technology.
Can I hear it?
Is it playing?
Yeah.
All right, I think we might have had a minor issue with the sound there, but it did sort of come through, I think, for us. Hopefully that went through to everyone else. I'll have to play around with that. Now I've just got to stop this playing in the background. Oh, there's too much going on. Okay. So we are going to sign off now. And
Thank you, Paul.
Paul, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being so open.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And one thing I was going to say is next week's speaker is actually Samantha Gash, who is an ultra endurance athlete, has run across India, run across all over the place. Youngest person to sort of, and first female, I should say, to run the 5 deserts, which is the 5 desert Grand Slam, which is pretty amazing. But Sam's a really good friend, and she's going to be on next week at Wednesday the 26th.
I think so. And she's
26th.
also an adventure mama and has come into motherhood and only gotten better for it. So she's someone I really look up to, as, you know, she had a child, and you'd think for an ultra athlete that could hamper or hinder. Also a keynote speaker, flying around, and she does it with grace and poise and with her son in tow often, and the support of her family. So I can't wait to talk to her about all things motherhood, purpose, and passion as well. She's
actually got a show on at the moment. She's part of the adventure race that actually happened, the world's toughest race. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment. So if you want to get a little insight to her, jump on that and have a watch. All right. So we are going to see you next week. And until then, happy adventuring.
Bye.
Bye.
Is Paul still on?